Hello, hey, this is Dr. Heath Van Horn. I am making a quick video here about creating a pfSense Firewall VM. It is in our book, Mastering Enterprise Network, second edition. Right now it says it's chapter 3, but that's going to change as we add the chapters. All right, first thing you got to do is have VirtualBox installed. One thing to remember is that pfSense is an operating system, just like Windows, Linux, or Mac. So you need to download the installer. Now, the thing is this used to be always free, and it's still free, but it's kind of convoluted to get it. So the official method is you have to go to this website. You have to put in your name, address, phone number, things like that. People can be sensitive about that. They should be. So you can use made-up information if you want. I just used my publicly known uh, email address, the address of the school, and my office phone number, because that is all very viable. I've never gotten a piece of spam from these guys. I downloaded it over a year ago, so they're just using it to track users of the software. So it's up to you if you want to give information or not. The unofficial method of downloading the system is just to go to Google search pfSense version 272 for the AMD release 64. I think I found a few on a couple of EDU sites, but you can download those. However, downloading things from untrusted sites can be sketchy as well. So either way, you're kind of going in the sketchy route. So, all right. When you download it, you're going to have to unzip it. And you can't use Windows zip function because it doesn't like the GZ file. That's an older zip version, but 7-zip uses it just fine. So install uh, 7-zip and you'll be perfectly fine. So if we go here to downloads, we can see that I installed it, or I downloaded it earlier. It is somewhere. And then I already uh, unzipped it, so it's right there ready to be used, and life is good. All right. To create a pfSense VM is a pretty standard exercise. It's not all that difficult, but there are a lot of screens because remember they built it based on a DOS GUI, and that's what also if you're not aware, GUI takes up a lot of system resources, and so by not using those system resources, you can still accomplish quite a bit because the memory and uh, the RAM, the processor, all that is dedicated to the services and not just the interface. So this is one of those that takes that to the extreme. So we're going to do that as well. All right, so we come over here and we say, hey, we're going to create a new one. So we do new, and we're going to call it pfSense Firewall. And then the ISO that I extracted earlier, it's right here. It's still in the memory because I did this process a little bit ago. And so we collect that ISO image, and now we have that. We want to change our edition to BSD, and we're going to use FreeBSD 64 because that is what my processor is running as a 64-bit processor. BSD is just another type of Linux kernel. So, all right, we're going to come over here and we're going to make sure it has 1 gig of RAM. You can add more, but for the things that we're doing or for the purpose of just installing, you don't have to give it that much RAM. It doesn't take a whole lot to boot up. So we hit next. We want to make sure our drive is at least 20 gig. That way, if we download new tools, we have room for those tools. So we're going to hit next. We review everything. We hit finish, and now we have it on our menu. Now we're going to go to settings, and this is where things get a little meta, but it's fine. We want to go to network settings, adapter 1, we want to make sure it's enabled, and that's NAT, so that way it will interface with the internet. Adapter 2, we want to enable, and we're just going to say it's an internal network. We're going to use adapter 2 for our LAN. Adapter 1 is going to be for our WAN, or wide area network, or local area network. And then adapter 3 is going to be used for our DMZ. Not today, but it will eventually. So we might as well just turn it on right now. The images go along with that. And then we hit OK. Now we start. And we're going to let the VM boot. And now we're going to get a lot of cool DOS menus. Just let this time out, and it'll start booting. All right, once we get to this point, we start using tab and arrows to navigate the menus because they are DOS based. Hit accept. Okay, then you want to highlight the install. And we're going to say OK. And remember, our interface cards that we're using are 1, 2, and 3, but that translates to 0, 1, 2. So we're just going to use the topmost card, and we're going to use EM0, which is our interface 1, which we already know is connected to the NAT network. And we're going to hit OK. And we're going to say continue, proceed with the installation. And we're going to hit OK. And then it'll say the LAN interface. Now remember, interface 1, which was EM0, is the WAN. So that would mean interface 2, which is called EM1, will be the LAN. All right, we're just going to say continue. It's verifying. It's going to install it from the internet access. So we're just going to let that go. And it's going to tell us, hey, we don't have a license. That's fine. We don't need a license. They still give it to free. It's called the CE version. So what we're going to do is we're going to say install CE and hit continue. We're going to do Stripe with no redundancy because we're just having it installed to our virtual hard drive, which is right there, the VBox hard disk that we created, 20 gigs in space. Okay, are you sure you want to destroy all the contents? Yeah, there's nothing in there now, so go ahead and destroy it. Yep. All right, so now we're going to let this boot. We're going to select the most current stable release, hit enter, and now we just got to wait for the installation to occur. When it's done, we'll press OK. And this is where things get a little hinky, which is fine. We can handle that. A lot of what we're doing here with the little different settings and stuff is because pfSense assumes we're not running it on a virtual machine, that we're running it on actual hardware. And so there are many decisions you have to make, so that way it still thinks it's installing on actual hardware. And that's where some of these weird actions I ask you to take come into play. All right, so that is finished. So we're gonna hit OK. And don't reboot. What you want to do is come over here and go to Devices, Optical Drives, and you want to force the unmount of that device. And make sure it's not connected. It is not connected. And now you want to reboot. And it says we get a fault, which is perfectly fine. That's exactly what would happen if you forced an unmount. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, we're going to go to the machine, and we're going to say reset. So this is what we're doing here is the software equivalent of ejecting the CD from the hardware. So now it's booting. You can see from here that we wrote the interface here for you guys for quick reference, that in the virtual machine settings, interface 1, 2, and 3, pfSense recognizes those interfaces as EM0, EM1, and EM2. And the purpose for those interfaces is the WAN, which is access to the internet, the LAN, which is our internal network, and the DMZ when we get around to installing it. And there we go. We are all complete. You can see that EM0 has an IP address of 10.2.15.24. That is our external IP address. Then we have the LAN, which is EM1, which is our internal network, and that's 192.168.1.1. These are all the settings. If you don't want to do anything with the settings, you don't have to do anything. It's running. This is how it looks when it's running. And if you need to change these settings, you would use the sort of menu here. And that's it. You have this fully completed, and it is installed and ready to go. If you have any questions, talk to one of the TAs or send me an email. Thank you very much.